here. Out of curiosity, this is a dangerous question to ask, but have any of you seen Chasing Ice or Chasing Coral? Okay, awesome. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to completely throw out my presentation and no. I'm wanting to share a bit about the thinking and the making of these projects, but then also what's almost more important to me is what our team is trying to do with the films after we're done with the films. Our company, Exposure Labs, we look at ourselves as both film production and impact production, and it's that last step that is often a really, really big challenge for films, how to get them out to new audiences, to the audiences that you want to get them out to. So this all started for me. I went to Stanford and I studied anthropology there. I was not planning on being a filmmaker at the time. I had a real passion in photography, and I grew up doing photography that my dad taught me back in the film days. And when I was in college, I had an opportunity to meet this photographer, James Baylog, who was a National Geographic photographer. And that was really, for me, that was the dream job. And my spring break senior year, I got to go to Iceland and got to go travel and see the world and learn how to ice climb and go on these amazing adventures. James was working on this project, this idea to do time lapses of glaciers. And at the time, I was, I wouldn't have considered myself an environmentalist. I knew that these issues were important, but not having seen it firsthand, it was a very, very distant sort of problem. So I'm going to show you a time lapse. If you've seen Chasing Ice, this is an updated time lapse. This is not in the film. And this is one of our glaciers in Iceland called the Solheim Glacier. This represents 10 years worth of time. This will take about a minute or so to play through. And you'll see this glacier retreating. This is one of the very first cameras that we installed in Iceland. When we released Chasing Ice, it had represented 5 years worth of time, and the cameras have still been shooting all around the world, continuing to document the changes happening. So it's also showing you're not seeing advance in the winter. Normally a glacier would retreat in the summer, advance in the winter. We draw a line, we reverse time here just so you can remind yourself of where it started and what it looked like back at the beginning in March of 2007, and then we'll play it through one more time. This is representative of pretty much every glacier we've seen: Iceland, Greenland, Alaska, Glacier National Park, Antarctica, Bolivia, all across the planet. We're seeing this rapid retreat. One of the challenges here is that we have this scientific information, we have this knowledge, but we have this gap in communicating with the public. I'm going to show you this one clip. This is a woman who came and saw Chasing Ice at a screening in Los Angeles. She actually came to heckle the film. This was her response after seeing the film.
I saw this movie, Chasing Ice, today, and it hasn't just changed me about global warming, it has changed me as a person. And there is something, I don't know what I can do. I'm 60 years old, but there must be something I can do to help this, to help our children, to help my grandkids. I have talked to every friend, every person I know into believing there is no global warming. And now I have to undo my damage, and I will.
So we were getting responses like this from the film, but we were also getting a lot of people asking, what can I do? Right, so every screening we would do, what can I do? How can I make a difference? And that's a really big challenge with climate change. There's not a silver bullet for an individual. This is a very systemic problem. This is a change in ideology that we need to go through, and individual actions aren't going to add up enough, in my mind, to get to a solution. So we're coming up with ideas. What should we tell people? How can we actually make a difference? And we came up with a concept for a campaign that we tested with Chasing Ice. We had heard from some of our friends who work in Washington, there are moderate Republicans who understand that climate change is real. And really the core nexus of this problem here is that in the United States we have this political divide. We have a political problem, a partisan problem, on something that is scientifically grounded and scientifically sound. So the question is, how do we provide an opportunity for bridging those gaps, for bringing both sides of the aisle to work together towards this solution? And we were hearing stories of representatives who believed that climate change was real, but when they came out and they changed their stance on the issue, they got attacked. Tea Party opponents ran against them. They lost their seat. This is Bob Inglis, his story in South Carolina. So what we realized was what we could do and what we could offer as a film team was to bring people together to show them the film that we had made and to provide cover for elected officials. So we went to Central Ohio, where we screened Chasing Ice for 3 months. We lived there. We screened for every group that we could get out to, looking for groups beyond the choir, looking for hunters and fishermen and farmers and Boy Scout groups and community groups. So we screened, we did a whole bunch of events in farms. And how do we get new and fresh and different voices to reach out to this one representative we were trying to support, Congressman Teaberry? We had people write their messages, we collected the messages, we posted them all on his social. He was bombarded with quite a bit of social media, all with this messaging. And it's something that it made a big difference. In 6 weeks, he changed his stance. And in just 6 weeks from all of these messages, he acknowledged that climate change is real. We were debating taking that concept and expanding it and bringing it to more places and to more communities, but it was at that stage that we learned about a new story that was happening under the oceans to coral reefs. So I'm going to play for you the trailer for our latest film that came out last year called Chasing Coral.
Most people stare up into space with wonder, yet we have this almost alien world on our own planet, just teeming with life. It's a world completely out of sight and out of mind.
I have the utmost respect for corals. They're really sophisticated animals.
Coral is a fundamental part of a huge ecosystem.
They continue living as long as their environment allows them to.
There's this big heat wave that's traveling around all over the world. The coral bleaches, and what you're seeing is its skeleton underneath. It's like your body temperature changing. That's the seriousness of the issue. So we're sending 2 teams to put cameras down and capture this bleaching event.
The wind and the storm is really the controlling factor right now.
The wind just took us. The stern anchor didn't hold.
It's just demolished. You're working in an environment every single day that humans were built for. Your body is cut up, and then you open your eyes, and it's dead as far as you can see.
We don't have any time to waste.
If we want to have any hope,
we live at a unique moment in time where we can change history. It's not too late for coral reefs.
This has got to wake up the world.
So with Chasing Coral, we had this opportunity we traveled to all the major reef systems around the planet, and we're documenting the changes happening to coral reefs. If you're unaware, a very small change in temperature can affect literally the life and death situation for a coral reef. It's as if the human body had a fever. If your body temperature went up to 101 or 102 degrees, that's what corals are experiencing in the summertime in mass all around the world. They turn white for a period of time, but after that, if it stays too hot, they'll just flat out die. We've lost, in the last 2 years or so, we've lost about half of the Great Barrier Reef, and the state of corals around the planet does not look good. We're on a trajectory to lose coral reefs as an ecosystem within 25 or 30 years. And there's very little we can actually do about that. Like, if we stick to the Paris Agreement, we have a chance to keep corals on the planet. If we don't stick to Paris, there's pretty much no hope for corals. The big concern, actually, in my mind, is not with coral reefs specifically. It's what is the domino effect that happens as a result of that. We're pulling out cards in the house of cards. We're pulling out fundamental, foundational, base-level cards from the entire planetary ecosystem. These are very deeply interconnected systems that all tie into one another. And yes, we've lost individual species on the planet in various places over many decades, but we're talking now about the first loss of an entire ecosystem. We don't have much time to preserve the stability and the core functioning of the planet. There is an inertia in climate change that lasts about 30 years or so. So even if we stopped emitting today, we have 30 more years of built-in inertia in the system. I don't mean to be doom and gloom about all of this. This is just like, I'm actually not even telling you the really bad stuff. But this is a real, true reality that we're dealing with, and all the more frustrating when we live in a political system that is completely fractured and partisan on this issue, and we have a hard time getting towards solutions. So our team has now taken the concept that we tested with Chasing Ice, and we're trying to expand it and to grow it. Our hope is to build a model that we can then scale. So right now we're focusing just on the state of South Carolina. There are a number of political and partnership-based reasons for why we chose this one particular state. But going beyond what we did with Congressman Teaberry, we're wanting to see within the state of South Carolina, what can we accomplish? What can we do? How much can we move the local community? Once again, really avoiding any political language if we can, working towards building partnerships with very different types of groups, different types of spokespeople for the issue. The real question comes down to who is the trusted messenger within a community? And that might not be me with long hair coming in from outside, right? Who are the local people that an audience might trust and believe and support, and listen to that message that sort of creates a crack in the mind, in the thinking. Film, as it turns out, is an amazing organizing tool that you can use to bring people together. You get hundreds of people to come together to share a common experience where we actually turn our phones off and like sit in a room and listen to one story. And it allows for an opportunity for people to speak. So I'm going to play a little clip for what we're working on in South Carolina right now. Yeah.
South Carolina is at a really exciting time in its own clean energy future. It's coming up to an election year. It's also a very red, very conservative place, and at the same time is full of people who care deeply about the environment, deeply about conservation.
Being here in South Carolina, where the sun shines a lot, solar's a better fit for us.
We feel that we are the moral compass for protecting our environment and people.
We will not be stopped because truth is on our side, victory is on our side, and most of all, God is on our side.
How do we create space and how do we build bridges for people to come together and to have difficult conversations around what we want our future to look like? One of the most powerful things that we've seen is using film as a tool to organize. That's one of the things that can advance this conversation. And it's something that's replicable, it's something that's scalable, and it's something that we can take to lots of different communities all across the state of South Carolina.
What are some things that you guys are actually doing?
We are working through a network of local partners. There's an opportunity to bring in new voices, new people, and new power into these movements.
Tonight, we are in Greenville, South Carolina. We'll be screening Chasing Coral with conservation voters of South Carolina.
It's not just something in the ocean, on the coast. We can't continue down the path that we are now.
I did not expect this film to bring it together for me the way it did, but to look at the coral reef, global warming not only affects that, but it also affects us.
Does anybody know why we should protect the corals for our own good?
I'm passionate about bringing it back to my school because anybody could bring it to our school, but if I bring it back, I think it'll have a bigger impact.
The negative images that are associated with South Carolina are always kind of there. Let's do something that we could be like, this is like a hallmark of South Carolina history.
If we do something, there has to be an effect. We have to keep going. We're not gonna just sit on TV and do nothing. We have to keep going because we have many reasons.
The hope is that if we really can rally diverse new audiences and create new power within the state of South Carolina, we can get a lot of people in positions of leadership to pay attention to that, to recognize that.
People have told us that if we can make the model work in South Carolina, we can make it work anywhere. We know that if we can bring new, unexpected voices into this conversation through film, if we can connect these people to their leaders at moments that matter, we can make this movement unstoppable.
With carbon pollution and the consequences of it, there's not one singular tipping point. There are many different tipping points. We've already lost some of them. We're committed to losing more, but there are far, far, far more that we can still protect. I am actually very positive and very optimistic that we will solve this problem. It will become so evident, if nothing else, that we need to address it and we need to take action. And it's just a matter of when. It's just a matter of how much damage can we prevent and how much can we preserve for our sake and for all of future humanity's sake. Thank you all so much, and it's been awesome.